Hello and welcome to SciLux, the podcast where we talk about scientific developments and technological changes in Luxembourg. As usual, remember that SciLux is powered by Research Luxembourg and we are recording straight in the studios of RTL City. Our today's guest is Carole Blond-Hanten, who is a researcher in the Labour Market Department of LISER, so the Luxembourg Institute of Socioeconomic Research. She holds an MA in Sociology from the University of Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium, and she worked for NGOs and local governments before pursuing a scientific career. Her main research fields are gender and industrial relations. Carole, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for the invitation.
So I have to say that probably you're the first guest on our show that has designed a game. So I want to start with that because I love that, outreach activity that you're doing, and it's been going on for many, many years now, right? How long is it now?
Yeah, that's right. So we created a gender game in 2016 for the Researchers' Days. Well, the idea was we wanted to take part in the Researchers' Days, but at the Researchers' Days there are many natural science experiments and that are very attractive for the wider public, especially for children. And of course, we are passionate researchers and also wanted to share our passion about social sciences with the public. So we were thinking, how can we show this? Because it's difficult to show social sciences. And then the idea came to design a game. The topic was clear to us. It was gender stereotypes. We had little experience about gender stereotypes because 2 years before the Researchers' Days, we participated in a science cafe, also about gender stereotypes, and we wanted to continue this experience.
But it doesn't mean that there is a special department that does gender studies in LISER, right? It was different departments that cooperated on the game.
Yes, that's right. So gender is not as such a research topic. It's more transversal topic. There are researches about gender that are led in all the three departments and also in our two platforms, health and health systems and crossing borders.
It's interesting what you mentioned about Researchers' Days and trying to make it interactive, because I think you have it really difficult, because it's true, you take any, chemist, or you take a physicist, they do a bit of boom and all the children or whatever visitors come there, right? But when you are doing social sciences, that's way more difficult.
Yes, but I must say the game from the first half an hour on, it went very well. We were not sure people would like it. But we started at 9. There was a class at 9 and we stopped to play the GG at 6 in the evening. So non-stop. And all these young people really thinking about the questions, coming up with, yes, but the question before we showed this and this, so it cannot be this. It was so interesting and it encouraged us clearly to continue in this sense.
Of course, although you must have been very tired after that. And normally Researchers' Days is not only 1 day, so...
Yeah, it's 2 days. And in 2017, we were allowed to propose the same activity again because it was a lot of work only for Researchers' Days. And I think FNR realized that we could take advantage of what has already been created. So at the Science Festival, it was 4 days. So this was really tiring, but also very fun. It's always so good to be in contact with the public, to have their feedback, to have interesting interaction with them. It fills us also with joy. I cannot explain it better.
Yeah, of course. This is this part of science that I try to discuss as well. This human connection that science gives you, and that's for cooperation between scientists, but also in the situation of outreach activities, that idea that you actually show your research to the others and make it understandable, which the game for sure was. But how did it work? Because I've never played it. So I've read a lot of the materials and different information, but I've never played it. So it was, I think, a pretty classic game, we could say, right? So you just move around on a board.
It's a huge game board. Mm-hmm. It's 3 by 3 meters. So you can imagine it's
wouldn't
nice.
fit in the studio,
No,
most
wouldn't
probably.
fit here. So we have to choose another room where we play it, but definitely you should once come and play with us. And then we have 4 teams, and these 4 teams, animal teams, because we didn't want to give any gender to the team. So there is the dog team, the fox team, the cat team, and the hedgehog team. And then on the board, we have 4 domains where there are still gender inequalities. Of course, there are more domains still, but these 4 fit to research we do in LISER.
And these are?
These are, so it's work, knowledge, power, and society. The last one, society, it's one we invented because there were questions from health that we put in it, but we didn't have enough to have an entire domain dedicated to it. And these domains we did also not invent them, but they come from the European Institute for Gender Equality. So there you have work, knowledge, power, the 3 we have. Then we have the transversal, let's say, society, which is, there are more questions about Luxembourg, let's say. And then you have time, money, and health.
Okay. And then move around in my team. So there is also this cooperation in the team, right? Because what I didn't understand is that it's not one person moving. It's actually, it's kind of like a pub quiz. The team has to decide on the answer.
Yeah, this was very important aspect for us because we did also want children to discuss things. Not only the children who shout the loudest can give the answer. No, they have to say, I think this because I observed this, or I observe something else. And we really want to stimulate, and we help them to discuss this among themselves. And then they give the answer. And we check then, because the questions are displayed on a big screen in 4 languages. So everybody can feel comfortable to reread the question in the language they are most familiar with. And then we show the answer of the question. And if the team has given the right answer, gets the point for this domain. Otherwise, they get a second chance to have the point on this domain.
Okay.
And the idea behind is to cover with points each domain of where gender inequality persists.
So before we move on with the game, you also prepared, of course, one of the questions from the game for our pub quiz today. So could you ask the question and listeners remember the answer? Unless you played the game, then probably you know the answer. But if not, the answer will be only at the end of the podcast.
One of our questions is, who is Nadia Nadim? Is she a professional football player? Is she a secretary? Or is she a doctor?
Once again, thank you, Carole, for that. And the answer at the end of the podcast. And this is what we have to mention here, right? So what you are trying to do with the game is not only just give the answers and say like, oh, good point, but really this is a start of a discussion.
Yes, this is our main objective, let's say, is to interact really with the children or young people or adults, because this I forgot to mention before, the GG can be played with 3 different target public, but can also be played in an intergenerational way, which is also interesting. We had a few intergenerational GGs, and it's very interesting because the perception of gender, of course, changes, and then you have supplementary layer of exchanges with the public.
But how would you get that intergenerational game, actually? There were families that just signed up, or where did you do that? This is very interesting.
So I give you one example. We were invited Maison Relais, who had a family day. Then we had this intergenerational GG. But also at another commune, we were invited to play one GG with young people from the youth house, and another one with people from the commissions of the commune. And the young people came late and the others were early. So we decided just to put the two publics together. And this was really funny because then we had really two teams of young people, two teams of adults. And yeah, this was really interesting.
Of course, it's a perfect discussion starter. Also afterwards, I'm sure that people just continue exchanging, right?
Of course, yeah.
But coming back, because I think we kind of missed that point here, we said that, there is this discussion. So you are there to moderate it. It's not that you just put the game on the floor and say like, okay, play.
Yes, of course. The moderation is really essential. So maybe I can give you an example. So I give this example all the time. The question is out now. So it was a children question. Who does the homework with the children? Is it the mother or is it the father? And then very spontaneously, children said, it's the mother. Like, it's what are you asking us? Of course it's the mother. And then we continue. Oh, why is it the mother? Why not the fathers? Are they not competent? Can they not do the homework with you? Oh, yes, of course, fathers can do that, but they are not. And then some children answer, because my daddy is still at work. Mothers are at home because maybe sometimes they work part-time. So we have already this subject of part-time, full-time, where we can explain a little bit what is this. And and then we continue to discuss with the children, and at the end we come out and okay, there are very funny answers also. Sometimes children say, well, no, my daddy is also at home, but it's still the mother who does this. And what does your father do? Oh, he's on the canapé, he's chilling. So it's also very funny, but then very quickly we can see with the answers of the children how deep the gender stereotypes are still anchored in everyone, us included, because, oh, well, this is a part of the mother's job. Why? Where did they learn that? They don't learn. They don't have to learn that. They do it better because they are women. So, okay. And if we close our eyes and if we have to answer this question, probably we would also say the mothers do the homework, because it's also our images that we have in our head. And then sometimes it happens that then one child says, oh, in my place, it's my father. And this, I think, is very important, because then the children hear from other children, not from adults, from other children, oh, there are other ways of organizing life. And these are, for me, very important moments in the game.
Of course, because then that example carries on, right? And you think, oh, maybe that if that works. I could also say that at home with my children, we switch. So whoever is home, because very often we are both not home, but it's also the problem of language, because sometimes it's the language that the other speaks better, right? Or just the matter. You're better at something or not. Yeah. I mean, in my past, I would sometimes ask my father to help me, but we were getting in fights. So it was not necessarily the problem of who does it. It was just like, I didn't want to get another fight, because he was like, how can't you understand this very easy subject of nuclear physics? So I was like, sorry, because he was a physicist. So that's why, But for sure, it's very interesting. And how did you come up with this question? Is it part of one of the research at LISER? Or?
Yes, this question came from research my colleague Blond-Hanten did. And it was this research was a study, was asked by several stakeholders in order to better understand how young people are organizing their lives.
Okay, and homework was part of it.
And the homework question was part of this.
Okay,
yes. It was a survey. It was a survey for young people.
And only in Luxembourg?
Only in Luxembourg, yeah.
Okay.
I can say that nearly the whole questions of the GG are concentrated on Luxembourg.
And that's very interesting as well, because of course we have particular cases here as well. Although of course, when it comes to gender stereotypes, I think borders don't matter, because certain things just are in many countries. Okay, what about your research? Are there any questions from your research personally in the gender game?
Yes. Now we have developed another project. Okay. So I have spoken about 2016, 17,
yes, true.
Then 2019, 20. Again, thanks to FNR, who supported GG from 2016 on and is still supporting, and I'm very grateful for this. So now we are together with LIST researchers in another big project, PSP flagship, so promoting science to public flagship. This runs over 3 years. Now we have begun the second year. And the idea is for the LIST part to integrate digital elements in the game to make it, for one, more fun and dynamic for the public, and also easier to handle for the animator. And we are also working on this assessment part because in an exploratory manner, we have already collected data from the previous GGs during the PSP Classic, and we have measured the impact, and there is really an impact in terms of gender and in terms of research. And now, of course, we want to continue to measure different impacts. The data we have was the immediate impact. So we got this data from questionnaires before, after the game, so really immediate. Now we also want to measure the impact on a medium term. So for the young people, we will create like an app. It's not really an app, but let's say an app. And 2 or 3 weeks after having played the GG, they get a notification, and we will check what they keep in mind, what they have,
how they changed, how their point of view changed.
How their point of view changed thanks to the GG, or if it changes.
Of course, yes, because we're assuming it's all going to be positive results, but who knows, right?
Yeah. And then we are also measuring the situational impact. So this is really completely integrated in the questions. So certain questions, there will be a voting system popping up. And then, of course, with the voting system, you can also measure the situational impact. And we analyze the gestures and the attitudes because, okay, it's radio. I cannot show it, but especially children are expressing not only with their voice, but also with their attitudes when they show something. For example, saying that girls have other faces than boys, and showing like this oval faces. Girls have oval faces, I didn't know, and boys have more round faces, and they show it with their hands. It's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what my children sometimes bring home. I mean, my son sometimes with some ideas. Yeah, but this is for the girls. And that's exactly the kind of a discussion we have all the time. Is who told you this, right? Even with the colors, I'm always shocked with this kind of color code system, right?
Blue and pink. Yeah. So, of course, we had to integrate this question into the GG. And yeah, children, well, at the end, They agree that boys can wear pink. When you discuss at the end, no, it's not a problem. It's unusual, but it's not a problem, at least for them. And girls can of course wear blue and darker colors. So it's really, you see the impact bit of the society, and yeah, because for the children, it's not really a problem. And by the way, in past centuries, I don't remember exactly, it was the other way around. Blue was the color for the girls and pink the color for the boys.
Yeah, I also heard there are some societies, I don't know where they just use the opposite still now. So it is really something absolutely with no real reason except for the fact that you have toys for girls that are pink, and then you somehow. But there is also a preference, and that's always a question whether this is a preference because my peers have that color, or it's a preference because certain colors appeal to us more than the others. We don't know that. Probably there is some research on that, but I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah, I think society plays a big role in our education. We have this same question when we have, for example, questions, who is better at math or who is better at reading more the girls, and math still a bit more the boys. And then with young people, we have these deep discussions where they say, but if girls are not interested in math. So yeah, it's interesting. how they think about themselves.
And what about the adults then? Are you going to also measure the impact on adults of the game or not?
No, only on young people and children.
Yeah, because I wonder how that works, right? We are just really so set in our, ideas that I think it would need a bit more time than one game to change certain approaches, or maybe not. Who knows? Who knows? Possible.
Let's say our ambition is to raise awareness about gender and, raise also curiosity about science.
We are talking today close to the 8th of March celebration. I just wanted to ask you, for you personally, what does this day mean to you? Do you celebrate? You say like, oh, I'm a woman, today is my day, or just like yet another day?
No, it's not like another day because, well, I'm feminist and I'm going to participate in activities that are organized, for example, by the platform GIF, Journée Internationale des Femmes. I'm also part of this because, I'm in many committees.
Yes, exactly. That's what we were contacting. You told me, I have so much, things that are not even written anywhere because I'm doing them instead of writing them.
Yeah. I think what characterizes me is I'm more in the action. And also a bit my research reflects this. I do not want to do research just to do it and to have nice articles. I also want to have an impact or to raise awareness and I think science is also there to build a better society in general, not only social sciences, but
this is a very good quote. Exactly. And I think that's also important to have those different models. Of course, there are also those scientists that will write papers that then others will use for, certain development in their fields. But there are also the people who just are more doers, as I called you. And I think that we need space for all of them, just like we need space for science communicators or scientists focusing more on outreach than lab work, if you want.
Yeah, I think FNR did so well to integrate the science communication or citizen science and, let's say, public outreach in their programs, because especially in Luxembourg, I think it's very important to get the whole society on board.
Talking of FNR, I just wanted to ask you, there is also this new campaign, right? Women in Science. Are you there also on some committee or not?
So, there are many things to say. First of all, maybe you know that FNR has initiated and is coordinating a gender working group in the whole science sector. So there are representatives of all institutes and at this gender working group. And yesterday FNR presented the work, the practical guide to all the CEOs. I was not present, but I'm pretty sure it was very interesting. Okay, and the campaign, the videos? Yes, so I'm not part of the video campaign, but I'm taking part so it's in the framework of the International Day for Women and Girls in Science. My personal contribution is that I'm taking part in a pub quiz with the Science Center, because they have this part in their flagship too, and even two pub quizzes. One with
not of pub quizzes.
One in the morning with children from high school, and in the evening with adults. And I think there's also a podcast organized by FNR, or I guess it's FNR. Probably. I don't know all of the activities, but for sure there's a lot going on. So we'll have yet another podcast today, kind of close to the 8th of March. I just wanted to ask you about it because especially in the past, there was this, I remember going to school and then all the boys had to buy us flowers and they were always complaining about it. So for me, the 8th of March is more about this kind of like hearing the boys, especially because I was actually in secondary school that was better because there were 5 girls and 20-something boys. So they would not complain because of just those 5 girls. It's okay. But the opposite was difficult, that I remember for sure. Okay, so you talk about this action and doing a lot of things. So of course, this means also that you are not only looking at
gender, but there's some more research going on. And I know that one of the topics that you focus on and look at are the social elections in Luxembourg, and also trade unions in general, women in trade union and all that. So is there any project that is cooking somewhere there right now, or are these already finished? Where are you with the other side? Because I know you talk a lot about the gender game. Everybody's asking you about that. But what about the other projects? Do you have time for that?
I don't have time for that, but of course there are also nice other projects going on. Yeah, you have mentioned the analysis of the social elections at the Chambre des Salariés. So not the social elections about the delegations in the firms, but at the Chambre des Salariés. So this has never been really done to this point. There was brief analysis, but here we go deeper, because I think for the Chambre des Salariés, it's very important that all the employees get aware, because many don't know this, because we have also many cross-border workers in Luxembourg are not aware of these chambers, professional chambers that we have. We have 5 of them. And because this does not exist in France or Belgium or Germany, there is only a similar institution in Austria. So this is an ongoing project. And then, of course, we are establishing a database on collective agreements. This we do together with Statec, because we are interested in different topics, and every country should have a database and about collective agreements, because it gives you so much insight about what is going on the field, not only if you are interested in collective bargaining, but also it gives you real feeling what is going on in the sectors and in the firms. So this is also a project that should at one point get bigger and bigger. But the start was a bit slow. But I think this is a very important project. And let's say last but not least, I am still also working on my PhD
yes,
project.
Exactly.
I saw that you wanted to bring me there. It's a bit on standby, I have to say, because it was a bit too much to follow it like a real good student, which I'm sure not. But it's also, or let's say to me, it's a very interesting project. It's something that really I want to continue one day. So it's about the role and the place of social partners in the implementation of gender equality in Luxembourg. So you see that I'm still loyal to my gender equality. I really want to understand what is happening there, because you know that in Luxembourg, social partners have a lot of, I wanted to say power, but power is not a good word. Marge de manœuvre, I would say in French. Sorry for saying this in French. And at European level, as well as on national level here in Luxembourg, but also in other countries, because we did also comparative studies with France, for example, there are really this ambition to implement gender equality for the social partners. So I'm speaking about social partners at European national level. And then when you go levels below to the sectors, to the firms, you can analyze, of course, the collective agreements, because it's the output of the collective bargaining, the product in a sense. And then you find there a lot of déclaration de principe, but not so much really commitments. And what I want to understand, where do we lose this big ambition? Where do we lose it? Somewhere in between. So we had this hypothesis of digressive intensity, and we are analyzing so from European to national to sector and to firm level, and see what happens there. So already, if you want, I can give one conclusion already, because I find it very interesting. I'm a qualitative researcher.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned that, but this is also the interesting part, especially because I think for a person who is not doing research every day, qualitative is easier to understand than quantitative.
Yeah, it's easier to, of course, it's easier to understand. Yeah, in a way.
But personally, I think it's way more difficult to do. Because numbers are numbers, and qualitative is always this kind of interpretation that you might have someone saying like, yeah, but this is just you projecting it on the results. Or am I wrong here?
Yeah, maybe you have to distinguish interviews. Like, for example, journalists do interviews. So they have their text and they just add quotes because it makes it more
lively,
yes. Yeah, exactly, more lively. But researchers do really deconstruct. So you do the interviews, you transcribe them, and then you code them depending on your research question, on hypothesis, whatever, or on literature. You quote them, you categorize it, and you reconstruct as a qualitative researcher these interviews. Of course, afterwards you write the text, and two researchers would not write the same text, of course, but they would do pretty the same work.
Because it's about the method.
Yeah. It's a method. So this makes the difference between research in qualitative methodologies and like interviewing, like we do all the time in our daily life.
Like even now, I was just laughing when you said, the journalists, they just write these questions and then quotes. I was like, do I have questions written here? Quotes? No, not yet. Okay, but I took you away from what you wanted to say about this, one of the conclusions of the PhD so far.
Yeah, so one conclusion that I got from the interviews. So why do we do these qualitative interviews? Because we want to understand, and this word is very important. So it goes deeper. The qualitatives goes broader, and here we go deeper. And so there is a break of logic, because what do social partners do? What do trade unionists do? They take what employees tell them. For example, we have our working conditions are not sufficiently good, and the unionist takes this into the discussions, into the negotiations they have with employers. But it's anchored somewhere among the working conditions in that firm. And here with gender equality, what happens? It comes from Europe, it comes from above. So you have these unionists, or even the employers. I mean, also the employers have to negotiate something that is not anchored in the bottom, but that is imposed, because it is imposed from above. So, and here we talk about this break of logics. And this can help us understand why gender equality is not yet completely implemented in Luxembourg or in the firms. I'm talking about labor market here.
So what you're trying to say is that if the firms had it more kind of rooted in the construction, then it would work completely differently than it does right now that it's imposed from outside. Yeah.
And also gender equality, it means a lot of things. It can mean work-life balance, it can mean equal pay, and so on and so on. All these topics about gender equality. So employees would never say, I want more gender equality. They would say, I want more pay, I want more whatever. So it's also difficult to translate this. It's different from other negotiation topics.
There's a lot to do, and I also know that you are looking at staff representations in general. You're part of staff representation at LISER, so I'm sure you have a lot to do there as well. So once we are done with this interview, what's going to happen with you? What do you have to do next? What is the most urgent thing you need to deal with? I guess you're not playing the game in the afternoon today.
I'm not playing the game in the afternoon, but not later than this morning. I had, for example, the ministry asking me to play the game in schools many times. So fortunately, we have this good collaboration with the Ministry of Gender Equality. This afternoon, I'm going to prepare a little text for a competence center that we have inside LISER, where I'm part of the steering committee. So in our strategic plan 22-25 was written that we had to implement 2 competence centers, one about data science and simulation, and the other one, where I'm part of the steering committee, is about experimental and participatory research. So, this is perfect for me, where we really try to encourage people also to go to innovative methodologies, to include stakeholders from the beginning on. Yes, all this co-creation mode, and if you include from the beginning on stakeholders, you know better their needs, and also the research has a better societal impact. And this is also very important to us.
It seems there's no project of yours that would be like, okay, it's 1 month and it's done. It's like a long term, maybe in 30 years, something is going to move.
It's also because I'm very involved also in the institutional part of LISER, as you mentioned, staff delegation since 2008. So a long time already. But also, when there are working groups, I am always interested in participating, and
That's a great example. I think that after this episode, people will be just like, okay, I don't want to stay on my couch anymore. I will either help children with homework, if that's possible, or I will just go and, become an active citizen, because that's very, very interesting kind of a mix of being a scientist, being a researcher, but also, contributing to the development of society. So thank you very much for sharing that. And it means also that our podcast is slowly coming to an end, but we need to solve the question. So once again, Carole, can you remind our listeners what the question was, and then tell us what the answer is?
The question was, who is Nadia Nadim? Is she a professional football player? Is she a secretary? Or is she a doctor? And the answer is, Nadia Nadim is a professional football player and she is a doctor.
It's a tricky question, actually. Do you tell the players that you can have 2 answers that are correct or not?
No, if they have 1 answer correct, it counts. They get the point. So it's a very, very nice question for them.
And what's so special about this question? What happens with the discussions and what the children, I guess, more than adults, probably adults too? What do they say normally when they try to figure it out?
Yeah, this one we have not tested with adults, but we have tested it with the children. So they never get it that it's a professional football player. So this is very interesting. Once we had, and this comes back very often, she's a secretary because she's a woman. Nadia is female name, so associated to more a female job. And then some children say, maybe she's a doctor and she does a lot of good things to people, and she's famous, and this is why you have it in your questions. This is also interesting. But what we wanted to share with the children is, of course, women can do jobs that we do not immediately associate to women, and sharing this means also now we have learned something, and in the future when we think about football, we think maybe still first of men, but also about women. And yes, and of course I tell the story of Nadia Nadim, who had to leave her home country, Afghanistan, who was a refugee, and while she was very talented, she went from Italy to Denmark, and there she was noticed as a good football player, and so she could build her career, and later on she played for France. I'm not this football specialist, but we have then in the answer, when we display the answer, we have, of course, a picture of her, showing her in her football dress and showing her as doctor. And then the children say, oh, she played for Paris Saint-Germain, she played here, because they recognize immediately. I think also it's important to give, especially children, young people, open their horizon about jobs, about their projections in the future. This is an example, a question taken from daily life. It's not especially linked to research, but in terms of gender stereotypes, I think it's a very good question.
And of course, this is also what you do at LISER, so you can read more about the research related to that and everything else. And for now, I just have to thank you very much for coming today. It was a pleasure. If someone wants to contact you, wants to play the game, or probably just Googling you and writing on one of the social media, right? Or is there a special website for the game?
We have a website. It's not really updated, but you can find every information you need. So it's gender-game.lu.
Okay, .lu. All right, so you can go there. And of course, if not, you can definitely contact Carole Blond-Hanten. You have to assume that it's going to take some time until she replies, because she's probably going to be on some committee or whatever. But she does reply, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer all your questions or just share any of the knowledge that we discussed today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Anna.
This is it for today. As usual, don't forget to subscribe, to follow us, to check what we're writing about on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. That will not be writing, but posting different things. And just write to us if you have some suggestions for guests or just comments about the episode. Remember, this was Silax, and my name is Hanna Siemaszko.